You did what men are promised will make them irreplaceable. You stayed loyal when desire tempted you elsewhere. You chose responsibility over thrill. You became reliable, consistent, solid, the man a woman is supposed to feel safe building a life with. You gave her time. You gave her stability. You gave her presence. And now you're standing in a silence that feels louder than any argument. She's still there, but she's not with you. Her body shows up. Her mind doesn't. Her eyes pass over you like you're part of the furniture. And the most corrosive pain isn't rejection. It's confusion. Because you didn't betray her. You didn't disappear. You didn't stop caring. So you do what men always do in this moment. You turn inward and start cutting yourself apart, searching for the mistake that explains why the woman you chose no longer feels chosen by you. Here's the truth that no one prepares men for. This isn't about you failing. It's about her internal system collapsing. What you're witnessing isn't boredom or ingratitude or you suddenly losing worth. It's hunger, a quiet, gnawing hunger that doesn't respond to love, that sex can't calm, that freedom doesn't satisfy, a hunger for proof that she still matters, right now, proof that time hasn't erased the version of herself that once commanded attention without effort, proof that she is more than a wife, more than a routine, more than a life already decided. And this is where it turns brutal. You represent certainty, a choice already made, a future already written. And when her identity begins to fracture, certainty doesn't feel comforting, it feels suffocating. So she changes, not because you weren't enough, but because enough no longer feeds what's breaking inside her. And if you don't understand this, what comes next will destroy you. What you're watching didn't begin suddenly. It didn't start with a fight, a temptation, or a single bad decision. It started years earlier, quietly, invisibly, in a place men are never taught to look. Men measure their worth through utility, what they provide, what they build, what they carry. If you are useful, needed, productive, you feel grounded. Women are conditioned differently. Their sense of value is tied to desirability, how they are seen, wanted, reacted to. And for decades, her body did the talking for her. Attention was validation. Desire was worth. Being chosen was identity. She didn't have to articulate it. The world reinforced it daily. Glances, compliments, doors held open, conversations that lingered, a constant, low-level signal saying you matter. But time doesn't announce itself when it starts collecting its debt. It just adjusts the volume. Less attention from strangers, fewer unprompted looks, a room that no longer shifts when she enters. At home, novelty fades into routine. The rhythm becomes predictable. Conversations repeat. Roles harden. And then there's you, the husband, who already chose her. Once, that choice felt like victory, proof, security. Now it feels static. You didn't stop loving her, but love became familiar, and familiarity doesn't generate the signal her nervous system was trained to read as value. This is the invisible countdown men miss entirely. Nothing explodes, nothing dramatic happens. Instead, small confirmations disappear one by one, not because she's failing, but because the system that validated her identity is quietly shutting down. And suddenly, Being chosen once no longer feels like being desired now. That gap is where the crisis takes root, not in dissatisfaction with you, but in the absence of external reflection telling her who she is. Here's what matters for you to understand. You can't fix this by increasing effort. You can't compete with time by becoming more accommodating, more available, more reassuring. That only reinforces predictability, the very thing feeding the collapse. The men who navigate this phase without losing themselves understand one thing. Value isn't negotiated through service. Desire doesn't respond to pressure. And identity crises don't resolve through sacrifice. If you want to survive what's coming, you have to see the countdown for what it is. Not a verdict on your worth, but a warning that the rules she's lived by are breaking. And when systems break, people behave in ways that don't make sense until you understand the mechanism underneath. The hunger doesn't wake up during a fight. It doesn't arrive with an argument or a confession. It activates in moments so small, you'd dismiss them if you weren't paying attention. A pause in front of the mirror under unforgiving light, where her face looks familiar, but not friendly. She tilts her head, searching for the version of herself that used to look back without effort. It isn't panic yet, it's recognition. Something has shifted, and for the first time, she feels it in her body before she can explain it with words. Then the world mirrors it back to her. A younger woman walks into a room and draws attention effortlessly, without performance, without history. Laughter follows her. Eyes linger. No one means harm. But comparison doesn't need cruelty to cut deep. At home, everything works. The routines hold. The roles are clear. And that's the problem. Stability doesn't reflect desire, it reflects completion. She isn't being chosen anymore. She's already been chosen. And what once felt like security now feels like erasure. Sometimes it's even quieter than that. A notification lights up her phone. Not dramatic, not explicit, just unfamiliar. A message that isn't from you. A reminder that the world still reacts to her presence in ways your certainty no longer does. Or a conversation with a man who looks at her without context, without knowing her sacrifices, her years, her compromises. He doesn't see a wife or a role. He sees possibility. And in that look, something dangerous clicks into place. This is the moment of fracture. Not because she wants another man, but because she wants to feel undiscovered again. She wants to exist without the weight of her own story pressing down on her. Without being predictable. Without being known so completely that nothing about her sparks curiosity anymore. That's the hunger waking up, not sexual, not romantic, but existential. A craving to feel real again in a world that has slowly stopped reacting. This is where men misread everything. They think the threat is external. They brace for competition, betrayal, confrontation. But the real shift already happened internally. The fracture isn't about replacing you, it's about escaping the version of herself that feels finished. And here's the part you need to register quietly, without panic. The more you rush to reassure, to anchor, to remind her of what she has, the more you confirm the very thing she is trying to outrun. Because hunger doesn't respond to proof of stability. It responds to the possibility of becoming someone else. And once that possibility enters her nervous system, the countdown you never saw becomes a choice you can't control. This is where most husbands lose, not because they're weak, careless, or absent, but because they obey an instinct that has always served men well. Everywhere else fixed the problem. You sense the distance, the restlessness, the subtle drift, and you move toward it. You offer more reassurance, more presence, more patience. You lean in, believing love, consistency, and proof of commitment will stabilize what's shaking. But this is the most dangerous illusion of all. No amount of love can compete with lost identity, because what she's losing isn't affection, it's herself. To her nervous system, you don't represent safety in this moment. You represent permanence, stability, a life already lived, already decided. Even if that life is objectively good, even if it was built with care and sacrifice, it has one fatal flaw. It confirms the passage of time. You are not the threat. You are the evidence. Evidence that the future is already mapped. Evidence that the roles are set. Evidence that there are no surprises left to unlock a different version of her. And when identity is cracking, evidence feels like a cage. This is the contrast men struggle to accept. You are known, safe, familiar. You've seen her heart, afraid, uncertain. You carry history. A stranger doesn't. A stranger doesn't see the years, the compromises, the invisible labor. He doesn't look at her as a wife or a mother or a role. He looks at her as she once was. Potential. Possibility. A reflection of a self she's afraid is gone. That reflection doesn't require betrayal to be intoxicating. It only requires novelty. And novelty isn't about sex, it's about imagination. So when you try to fix things by anchoring harder, you unintentionally sharpen the contrast. Your effort highlights predictability. Your reassurance emphasizes familiarity. Your availability removes tension. None of that feeds hunger, because this hunger isn't about consumption. It isn't solved by attention, affection, or sacrifice. You can't satisfy a hunger that's trying to escape, not acquire. The men who survive this phase don't fight for reassurance. They don't compete with ghosts or try to outperform time. They understand, quietly, that chasing stability in the middle of an identity fracture only accelerates the collapse. They hold their ground without clinging. They remain present without pleading. They don't mistake love for leverage, because the moment you try to prove your worth to someone who's questioning their own, you lose more than influence, you lose yourself. And once that happens, there's nothing left for either of you to respect. This is the part that makes men angry when they don't understand it, and calm when they finally do. Because what follows looks like betrayal, recklessness, even cruelty on the surface. But underneath, it's not a moral failure. It's a biological and psychological response to identity collapse. When the hunger can't be fed, it starts looking for exits, not rational ones, urgent ones. The first shift is emotional withdrawal. She becomes quieter, less reactive, harder to read, not because she doesn't care, but because engagement reinforces a role she's trying to shed. Distance creates space. Space creates the illusion of freedom. Then comes the sudden obsession with appearance. New clothes, new routines, a sharper focus on her body. This isn't vanity, it's reclamation. When her sense of value was built on being seen, tending to the body feels like regaining control over something time has been stealing without permission. After that, boundaries get tested. Conversations drift into dangerous territory, not explicit, but charged. Questions about what-ifs. Casual remarks that feel unnecessary, but intentional. She's not fishing for sex. She's testing whether she can still provoke reaction, curiosity, tension. Each response becomes data, proof that she can still move the emotional environment around her. And when that works, the nervous system learns quickly. Risk follows naturally. Not always dramatic, but progressive. New friendships that feel innocent until they aren't. Situations that blur lines without crossing them at first. Risk creates adrenaline. Adrenaline cuts through numbness. It makes her feel alive again, even if only temporarily. And to justify these impulses, the narrative must change. This is where history gets rewritten. The marriage becomes confining. You become ambiently unavailable. The past gets edited to support the present urge. Not because it's true, but because identity demands coherence. Here's the line men have to hear. Without flinching, she isn't trying to destroy the marriage. She's trying to destroy the version of herself that feels finished. And when survival feels at stake, the mind prioritizes relief over responsibility. That doesn't make the behavior harmless, but it does make it predictable. Your quiet application here matters. You don't confront every shift. You don't argue with rewritten stories. You watch patterns instead of reacting to provocations. Because the moment you moralize a psychological collapse, you lose clarity. And clarity, not control, is what keeps you grounded while someone else is unraveling. This is the trap that closes quietly, because everything you're about to do feels logical, responsible, even loving. You sense her slipping, so you move closer. You try harder. You become more available. You initiate conversations meant to clear the air. You explain your intentions. You reassure her of your commitment. You sacrifice more time, more energy, more of yourself, believing that if she can just see how much you care, the distance will stop growing. What you don't realize is that every one of these moves is interpreted through a completely different lens than the one you're using. From your perspective, effort is proof of value. From hers, effort in this moment reads as pressure. Over-communication doesn't feel like clarity. It feels like surveillance. Availability doesn't feel like devotion. It feels like predictability, tightening its grip. Sacrifice doesn't inspire gratitude. It quietly signals that you're afraid to lose her. And fear, no matter how well-intentioned, is not reassuring to a nervous system already trying to escape confinement. This is why chasing reassurance backfires. You're asking her to stabilize you emotionally while she's the one destabilizing internally. You're seeking confirmation at the exact moment she's questioning everything. And the more you push for certainty, the more you highlight the imbalance. Desire cannot be negotiated with effort. It doesn't respond to logic. It doesn't grow under inspection. Effort signals fear. Fear signals weakness. And weakness kills polarity, not because men are wrong to care, but because attraction operates on tension, not persuasion. The cruel irony is that your instinct to fix becomes the accelerant. Every extra explanation flattens mystery. Every emotional check-in drains contrast. You turn yourself into a constant presence in a moment that demands space. And that space is where respect either survives or dies. This doesn't mean withdrawing in anger or playing games. It means resisting the impulse to collapse your frame just to keep her comfortable. The men who avoid this trap don't fight the emotional current. They stop performing for approval. They remain grounded in their own rhythm, even when uncertainty tempts them to abandon it. They don't confuse love with self-erasure. They understand that stability only retains value when it's anchored in strength, not desperation. Because the moment you start proving instead of being, you shift from partner to pursuer. And once that happens, the outcome you're trying to prevent has already begun. What actually protects you here isn't a tactic, a strategy, or a clever response. It's awareness of what is and what is not yours to carry. The first mistake men make is stepping into a role they were never meant to fill. You are not her therapist. You are not the regulator of her identity. You are not responsible for negotiating with time on her behalf. The moment you start trying to stabilize her emotions, explain her confusion, or absorb the fallout of her internal fracture, you quietly abandon your own center. And that loss is irreversible if you don't catch it early. The moment you try to save her from herself, you lose yourself. Not dramatically, but gradually through self-betrayal disguised as love. What keeps men intact through this phase is independent gravity, a life that doesn't orbit her instability, purpose that existed before the relationship and would exist without it, standards that don't get renegotiated every time emotions spike. This isn't detachment, it's orientation. Men who survive don't chase emotional volatility, don't react to every mood shift, don't reshape themselves to manage someone else's crisis. Their presence remains steady without becoming submissive. Because stability is only attractive when it isn't desperate. The moment stability begs to be valued, it stops being valuable at all. The final layer of protection is perception. You stop listening for reassurance in words and start reading direction in actions. Words will rewrite history when identity is under threat. They soften guilt, justify impulse, and bend reality to relieve pressure. Actions don't do that. They reveal trajectory. Consistency or impulsivity, accountability or endless explanation, respect or entitlement disguised as self-discovery. Love doesn't disappear quietly. It gets replaced noisily with distractions, with narratives, with urgency that doesn't include you. This isn't about becoming cold or guarded. It's about refusing to dissolve while someone else is fragmenting. You stay observant without becoming reactive, present without pleading, grounded without trying to anchor her. Because the only position that preserves your dignity here is one where you are solid enough to watch the truth unfold without flinching. And if you can do that, no matter how this ends, you don't walk away diminished. At the end of this, the truth settles in quietly, not as anger, not as bitterness, as clarity. Some women move through this phase with honesty, restraint, and self-awareness. They grieve what's changing without destroying what still holds value. Others don't. Others panic when they feel time closing in. They mistake intensity for aliveness. They confuse disruption with renewal, and they burn everything down just to feel something sharp enough to cut through the numbness. That difference is not something you can control, negotiate, or influence with effort. This is the part men need to hear without resistance. Your job was never to save her from time. You were never meant to compete with aging, memory, or the quiet fear of becoming invisible. You didn't sign up to be a shield against biology or a buffer against existential dread. When you try to take responsibility for forces that were never yours, you don't become noble, you become smaller. And small men don't preserve relationships. They disappear inside them. Your only real responsibility here is brutal in its simplicity, not to lose yourself trying, not to hollow out your standards to buy temporary peace, not to shrink your presence to avoid triggering her unrest, not to confuse endurance with virtue. Because even if the relationship survives, the cost of self-erasure is paid long after the crisis passes. And if it doesn't survive, you'll have traded your dignity for an outcome you couldn't prevent anyway. This is where the calm returns. You stop bracing. You stop negotiating with uncertainty. You stand where you are, solid enough to let the truth reveal itself over time. Whatever choice she makes, you don't chase, beg, or unravel. You remain intact. And that's the quiet power most men never realize they're allowed to have. Because the most dangerous man isn't the one she leaves. It's the one who survives with his dignity intact. If this felt uncomfortably familiar, you're not alone. Subscribe. We talk about the truths men were never taught to name.